Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are games that are currently surrounded in a ton of controversy over the way the game stutters and just doesn't perform very well overall. There's people who say that it doesn't really matter that it stutters, and there's other people that say that it's game breaking and that it doesn't really work at all, and they're not even going to pick it up because of these issues. So today I decided it would be interesting if we went ahead and talked about whether or not Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were rushed. Now, right away, I feel it's probably important to say I'm not a game developer or anything else like that, and I have no idea if these games actually were. This is just going to be my opinion, and I'm going to be trying to take an objective look at it, so if you guys know more about this, I would absolutely love to hear about it in the comment section down below. So the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and take a look at Nintendo's holiday release schedule over the past couple of years, because I feel as though it's important to talk about those games, because every year Nintendo puts out some kind of big game for the holiday season, so that way they have something that really sells well before the end of their fiscal year. So let's go ahead and go all the way back to 2017 when the Nintendo Switch was first released. So that holiday season's title was Super Mario Odyssey. In 2018, we had Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which sold extremely well. Then in 2019, we had the release of Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. Then flash forward to 2020, and we had the release of Super Mario All-Stars. Then we move forward to 2021, which was last year, and we had the release of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Those games released on November 19th of 2021, and I just think it's hilarious that 1 year later, we got the brand new generation of Pokemon being Generation 9, Scarlet and Violet. So now we move ahead to this year's holiday titles, which are obviously Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now between Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and also Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, we also got the release of another Pokemon game that people absolutely went nuts for, which was Pokemon Legends Arceus. We got that game in January, and I think that lots of people were surprised that that wasn't actually our holiday title, and they decided to push Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl instead, because those games were critically acclaimed and absolutely loved. But I digress. We ended up getting those games in January of 2022, and those were absolutely fantastic games. The story was on point. The game didn't stutter as much as Pokemon Violet and Scarlet, so yeah, I think overall it's really interesting we didn't have that game as a holiday title, but it is interesting to note that it was a very good game that sold extremely well. So now here we are on November 19th of 2022, and in the past year, from last November 19th of 2021 to today, we have gotten 3 new Pokemon Switch games, being Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, Legends Arceus, and now Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and that is an absolutely insane amount of Pokemon games. I mean, right away, all 3 of those games were pretty good in their own rights. I know that people have their opinions on Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and there are some people that didn't really like Legends Arceus, but overall, I think we can all agree that it's really impressive that Pokemon managed to put out this many games. However, because they ended up putting out this many games with the remakes and Legends Arceus and now Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, there are lots of people saying that these games were actually rushed and they didn't get enough time put into them to make them the best games that they could possibly be. Obviously, with 3 major releases in a 1-year span of 365 days, that means that the Pokemon Company and Game Freak were working overtime trying to make all of these games, so I could see definitely where the argument is made that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were rushed, but you could also make that same argument for Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl and Pokemon Legends Arceus. Obviously, there were some issues in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I'm not going to go into it. I know that there's people that don't like the art style. That's not exactly what I'm referring to. I'm pretty sure that there were some technical issues in the game, which I only made it to the second gym in that game. I didn't think it was that fun. If I wanted to play Diamond or Pearl, I'd just play the originals. But in Legends Arceus, in the wild areas, yes, there was absolutely some issues when you were running around the map on the open world. Pokemon would stutter, there would be frame drops, there would be times when the game would seem a little bit unplayable, but overall, I mean, it was fantastic. I did not notice any technical issues as even close to as much as the technical issues I noticed in Scarlet and Violet. So now that we are at Holiday 2022 and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are released, we have seen a bunch of reviews of the game, and one of the things that I've noticed across all of these reviews is that they're actually reviewing pretty well. People do seem to like the game, however, the scores are not as good as they could have been because of the issues that they see on the technical side in these games. If you don't believe me, go ahead and look up some reviews for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. You'll notice that the story of the game gets pretty high regards. People really do seem to like the story, and I have to say I agree with that. The story is absolutely amazing, the characters are fun and fresh, I like to run around and try the new mechanics. Overall, I'm having a pretty fun time with the game, and I think that if it wasn't for the frame rate issues and everything else like that, this might be one of my favorite Pokemon games, but because the game stutters and lags and at some points just becomes unplayable, which I'm probably going to make a whole video about that soon, talking about like how the game stutters and sometimes it can just overall freeze. If you guys haven't seen it yet on Twitter, there are tons of people posting videos and pictures right now of stuff that's happening that actually like crash their game. The game will freeze at some point and it can be a little annoying, so yeah, I highly recommend going ahead and checking some of those out if you haven't already seen them. But in terms of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, everybody's saying the technical issues are definitely weighing it down, and that makes them really disappointed because if we're playing a Pokemon game, we expect it to run well because Pokemon is the #1 media franchise of all time. They make a ton of money from their merch and from their video games and from the trading cards and from the anime. There is so much money that Pokemon is making, so to see that Game Freak will now put games out, even like unfinished games, like these might be unfinished games. So going back to what we were talking about earlier, with the release of 3 Pokemon games over the course of the last 365 days, I definitely think the argument is there to be made that yes, these games were probably rushed because Nintendo wanted them to get out a brand new Pokemon game for their holiday title. As of right now, this past year, I can't think of too many games that came out that I was really in love with. Yes, there were good games that came out that I did enjoy, but I mean, nothing tops a good Pokemon game. Everybody loves Pokemon, they know it's going to sell extremely well for the holiday season, so Nintendo was probably pushing for them to get this game out as quickly as possible. Now, if I was in charge of Pokemon, what I personally would have done is I would have released Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl last year, I would have released Pokemon Legends Arceus this year, so that way it would be ready for launch, there would be more stuff to do in the game, there'd be more Pokemon to catch, and we could get that released for this holiday season, and then I would have delayed Pokemon Scarlet and Violet until a year from now, so that way we'd be getting a steady stream of 1 Pokemon game per year, and I think that that's honestly not too much to ask for. But it seems to me that Game Freak cannot handle getting out this many Pokemon games in such a short window. Now, like I said, I'm going to make a video later on going over all of the issues that I found in the game besides just like the dropping frames and stuff like that, because I have seen times when the game slows down so much that it's just become an absolute like terrible way to play. It feels like I'm playing Nintendo Switch Online even though I'm playing in single player, so I will go ahead and make a video showing those off later, but like I said, the frame drops, everything just really hurts this game, so in my opinion, yes, these games were rushed. I think that Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl were rushed. I think that Pokemon Legends Arceus was rushed, even though, yes, Pokemon Legends Arceus did run pretty well overall. There was a lot of fun stuff to do in the game. The Pokemon were all fun and fresh. I think that that game was, like, it's not perfect. Pokemon Legends Arceus is not perfect. However, it's just baffling to me to see that that game performs so much better on the Nintendo Switch than this game is right now. This is a main series Pokemon game, Generation 9, a game that people have been looking forward to for such a long time, and we're just seeing all these performance issues right now, and it's just extremely, extremely disheartening. So yeah guys, let me know in the comment section down below whether or not you believe Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were rushed. Like I said, in my opinion, I do believe that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were rushed because Nintendo really wanted to have a big holiday title out there, so that way they could report the sales of this game for their fiscal reports next year. And I mean, honestly, I think that these Pokemon games are on track to be the best-selling Switch games of all time, and if they're not the best-selling Switch games of all time, I feel at least as though they're going to be the best-selling Pokemon games of all time, because this isn't Legends Arceus. This isn't a game where there's different mechanics and there's Pokemon in it. This is a game where you run around, get into battles, take a gym challenge, and because it's mainline Pokemon, people are going to go absolutely nuts for it no matter what. So it's disappointing, and if it does end up happening, if we do end up seeing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet become the best-selling Nintendo Switch games of all time, or at the very least, the best-selling Pokemon games of all time, that means we are sending Game Freak a message that we don't really care about these frame rate issues, or the game lagging when you're playing online, or the new Pokemon not looking as great as some of the old generations. This is sending a message that we will play whatever Game Freak puts out, and they're a business. Their goal is to make money, so if they can save money by not developing it to its fullest ability, I mean, they're probably just going to keep doing it. As much as I hate saying it, they're probably going to keep the same size team for Pokemon Generation 10 and beyond. So I know I'm part of the problem, and I already bought the games because I wanted to talk about them. But like I said, guys, I am having a very fun time with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I think the story is amazing. I really like some of the new Pokemon designs. I think Florigato is like one of my favorite Pokemon, and I absolutely love Sprigatito. But yeah, because of these frame rate issues, it's something that's definitely noticeable and something that does need to be addressed, so hopefully we get some word from Game Freak and the Pokemon Company about that soon. I would love to get your opinions, and let's go ahead and talk about it. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.